As Christmas Eve lights flicker across the U.S., a sense of anticipation fills the air. For many, this is a season of warmth, family, and hope, a time when neighborhoods glow with festive decorations and the promise of togetherness. But this year, beneath the twinkling lights, a new chill settles in, one born not of winter, but of fear and uncertainty. Across countless homes, families gather close, peering anxiously through frosted windows. The streets outside are quieter than usual, as if the city itself is holding its breath, bracing for what's to come. This July, President Trump signed the One Big Beautiful Bill, the most sweeping immigration enforcement law in modern history. The signing was met with thunderous applause from supporters, but for millions it marked the beginning of a new era of anxiety and upheaval. With $170 billion dedicated to immigration and border control, the law has transformed the lives of millions, launching mass deportations on an unprecedented scale. Airports and border checkpoints have become scenes of heartbreak, as families are torn apart with little warning. Unlike past policies that focused on serious criminals, this law makes anyone without legal status a target. No exceptions, no leniency. Everyday routines, school drop-offs, grocery runs, doctor visits, are now shadowed by the fear of sudden detention. ICE now operates with unmatched resources and power to reach into every corner of the country. Their presence is felt in suburbs, cities, and rural towns alike, as agents conduct raids with a frequency and scale never seen before. The message is clear: if you're undocumented, you're at risk, no matter your history, your contributions, or your community ties. Even those who have lived here for decades, raising families and building lives, now live in constant fear. Fear has swept through immigrant neighborhoods, as raids and family separations become daily news. Playgrounds sit empty, and once bustling community centers are now hushed, as families avoid public spaces, afraid of drawing attention. As families gather for the holidays, many face empty chairs and uncertain futures. The absence of loved ones is felt more deeply than ever, turning what should be a joyful season into one of sorrow and longing. The One Big Beautiful Bill has cast a long dark shadow over the American dream, leaving millions to wonder if the promise of hope and belonging will ever return. The new law injects billions into ICE, doubling detention capacity and tripling enforcement budgets. Agents now face a daily quota, 3,000 arrests every day, a massive jump from previous years. Large-scale workplace raids and collateral arrests, where anyone present can be detained, are now routine. This approach turns targeted enforcement into sweeping dragnets, ensnaring bystanders and amplifying fear. The system now values numbers over due process, incentivizing speed over accuracy. Backed by unprecedented funding, ICE operates relentlessly, often leaving families devastated and communities in turmoil. For those caught, the journey through the system is sudden, cold, and life-altering. Behind every statistic, there are real people whose lives are forever changed. Like Elena, a devoted mother of 3 living in Georgia. One ordinary afternoon, she was pulled over during a routine traffic stop, a moment that would alter her family's future in an instant. Without warning, Elena was arrested, her hands cuffed behind her back as her children waited for her return, unaware of the storm that had just swept through their lives. Her children, expecting their mother to pick them up from school, were left waiting at the gate, their faces filled with confusion and fear. At home, empty chairs at the dinner table became a daily reminder of her absence, and the laughter that once filled their house was replaced by silence and worry. Then there's Marco, a hard-working foreman in California who had never been in trouble with the law. One morning, his workplace was raided by immigration agents. In a matter of minutes, Marco and several co-workers were taken away, leaving behind unfinished work and a community that depended on them. Overnight, Marco vanished, and his friends and neighbors were left to wonder if they'd ever see him again. The aftermath is chaos. Families scrambling to understand what happened, children left stranded at school, and spouses making desperate phone calls, searching for any news. The uncertainty and fear ripple through entire households, leaving everyone on edge. The new collateral arrest policy has made it so that anyone, whether they're visiting relatives, neighbors dropping by, or even grandparents caring for grandchildren, can be swept up if they happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. No one is immune, and the sense of safety that once existed in these communities is quickly disappearing. In Arizona, a grandmother who had lived in the U.S. for decades was arrested while cradling her newborn grandchild. Her family watched in disbelief as law enforcement took her away, shattering the sense of security they had built over years. These are not hardened criminals, but ordinary people. Nannies, caring for children, cooks preparing meals, small business owners serving their neighborhoods. They are the backbone of their communities, suddenly torn from their lives and livelihoods, leaving behind a void that cannot easily be filled. Their absence leaves deep scars, children who cry themselves to sleep in empty bedrooms, families grieving together in living rooms, and small businesses forced to close their doors. The pain and loss ripple outward, touching everyone around them. The social fabric of entire towns is unraveling, as once thriving neighborhoods become quieter, homes are left empty, and playgrounds go silent. The sense of community that held these places together is slowly eroding. Fear now keeps people from going to work, sending their children to school, or even seeking medical care when they're sick. The threat of detention looms over every decision, forcing families to live in the shadows. The human cost is measured in these daily tragedies, families separated, dreams shattered, and hope fading. These stories are not isolated incidents, but daily realities repeated thousands of times across the country. Under the new law, no one feels safe in their own home. Parents hold their children a little tighter, and every knock at the door brings a wave of anxiety. The shadow of deportation now touches every corner of immigrant life, casting uncertainty and fear over futures that once seemed secure. Even U.S. citizens aren't immune. In 2025 alone, over 170 citizens, mostly Latino, were wrongfully detained by ICE. Leonardo Garcia Venegas, a Californian, was twice arrested despite showing his valid ID, his citizenship claims ignored. George Reyes, a combat veteran, was held for days, injured by agents and released only after his family intervened. These cases reveal a system where appearance and accent can override official documents. The government claims mistaken citizens are quickly released, but many endure prolonged detention and abuse. Racial profiling is rampant, eroding the rights of all Americans. For many, citizenship no longer guarantees protection from the dragnet. The pursuit of undocumented immigrants has made collateral damage of civil rights. The line between citizen and non-citizen grows dangerously thin. Despite claims of targeting criminals, government data shows otherwise. Over 60% of those deported since Trump's second term had no criminal convictions. In detention, that number rises to 71%. Most are swept up in raids or traffic stops, not for violent crimes, but for lacking papers. The system now prioritizes high arrest numbers over public safety, targeting the easiest to find: ordinary workers and families. The true focus is clear: reducing the immigrant population, not protecting the public. The harshest toll falls on children, many U.S. citizens, left behind when parents are detained. Schools report rising anxiety and trauma as kids fear losing another parent. The new law seeks to override protections for migrant children, allowing prolonged family detention. Overcrowded centers mean poor conditions and rising deaths. 10 reported in 2025 alone. The trauma of separation and detention leaves lasting scars on a generation. By targeting parents, the government wounds its own young citizens. The family, once sacred, is now collateral in a numbers game. Civil rights groups and advocates across the country have risen in unified opposition, condemning the new policies as both inhumane and unconstitutional. Their voices echo through city streets and social media, calling attention to the human cost of these sweeping changes. Many warn that these measures are creating a climate of fear, with some likening the increased police presence in immigrant communities to the beginnings of a police state. Racial profiling, now sanctioned by a Supreme Court ruling, has deepened mistrust and anxiety among Latino Americans and other minority groups who feel increasingly targeted and vulnerable. Stories of wrongful detention and family separations have fueled passionate protests outside ICE offices and detention centers nationwide, as communities rally to demand justice and accountability. Meanwhile, the White House and its supporters defend the crackdown, insisting that these actions are necessary to protect national security, uphold the rule of law, and safeguard American jobs. They dismiss the separation of families as an unfortunate but unavoidable consequence of enforcing the law, arguing that the blame lies with those who break it. Supporters of strict enforcement rally in cities and towns, waving flags and cheering for law enforcement, convinced that tough measures are the only way to restore order. Meanwhile, opponents demand a more humane approach, urging lawmakers to remember the nation's legacy as a land of opportunity and compassion. The nation is deeply divided, with passionate arguments erupting at rallies, in neighborhoods, and online, as Americans struggle to reconcile security with justice. The debate spills from the halls of Congress to the streets and even into family dinner tables, forcing difficult conversations about identity, values, and the future. Every American, regardless of background, is now confronted with a fundamental question: what kind of country do we want to be, and what values will define us moving forward? The battle over immigration has become a defining struggle for the nation's soul, shaping not only policy, but the very character of America itself. As 2025 ends, America stands transformed by the one big beautiful bill. Raids, arrests, and deportations show no sign of slowing. The human cost keeps rising. Fear and mistrust ripple through communities, while key industries face labor shortages. Wrongful detentions erode trust in law enforcement, especially among Latinos. The nation must now ask, what is the true price of security? The choices made today will shape not just immigration policy, but the very character of the country for generations. The story of this era is still being written, by lawmakers, by families, and by every American who must decide what justice and compassion mean in the land of the free.